So, in Black Myth, the Bull King is already on his last legs, his life force nearly extinguished. When I first saw him, I just couldn't connect this broken figure before me with the once proud warrior who stood shoulder to shoulder with Wukong, defying the heavens as great sage Ping Tian. But the more I learned, the more I realized his tragedy ran far deeper than I ever imagined. His second wife, beaten to death. His first wife, used as nothing more than a vessel to bear another man's child. And that so-called son. Not only did he wound the Bull King and imprison him here, but he even took his own life right before his very eyes. A ruined home, a shattered family, and it all started with one sentence from Wukong himself. "You old bull, you've got the worst luck in the world. Not once have you ever made the right choice." Once upon a time, Wukong was full of ambition, swearing brotherhood with 6 of the greatest Yaogua. He proclaimed himself Great Sage Qitian, and the Bull King. He chose to stand beside him, to rise in rebellion against the Celestial Court. But they underestimated their enemies, both the Celestial Court and Mount Lingshan. Wukong was crushed beneath Mount Wuzhe for 500 years. The Bull King, he disappeared without a trace. That was his first mistake. No official punishment was ever declared, but let's be real, neither the Celestial Court nor Mount Lingshan would ever allow a Yaogua of his power to slip beyond their control. So, they set their plans in motion. First, the Celestial Court. In the portraits of red-haired Yuxie, it is written, "In the kingdom of Yoksha, there were 8 great generals. One of them was Mi Yan. Surrounded by countless Arhats, he was beheaded. This confirms that the kingdom of Yuksha was annihilated by Mount Lingshan, and in Red Boy's portraits, another line supports this. I defeated monks as tall as mountains." But that wasn't all. Simply because of a shared bloodline, the kingdom of Rakshasa was also wiped from existence. Another victim of Mount Lingshan, after the fall of her homeland, Rakshasi, the princess of the kingdom of Rakshasa, led her people eastward, searching for refuge. She found a master. That master was Lao Tu, and Rakshasi. She became Princess Iron Fan. Not long after, Lao Tu arranged for Princess Iron Fan to marry the Bull King. And then came the river of childbearing. With divine power, Lao Tu took the last surviving heir of the Yoksha king, the sole remaining bloodline of the Yoksha royal family, and sealed him inside Princess Iron Fan's womb. Through her, Red Boy was born. The Celestial Court didn't bother with subtleties. If they couldn't control you, they'd control your wife and child instead. Take Princess Iron Fan of the Rakshasa clan or Red Boy of the Yuksha clan, both had deep, blood-soaked grudges against Mount Lingshan. And Bull King, he was said to become one of the Celestial Court's greatest weapons against it. The Keeper of the Flaming Mountains once said, "When this child grows up, he will bear witness to the blood debts of Mount Lingshan." But what did Bull King do when he learned of this fate? He abandoned his wife and son, ran off to live with his mistress instead, and that is why she had to die. A piece on the chessboard only exists as long as it holds value, but a fox with no worth, it doesn't even belong on a board, and one that dares to disrupt the game. The mistress sealed her fate the moment she let the piece stray from its path. She died because of Bull King, and yet, even now, he still didn't understand what Wukong meant when he said, "Someone like me, perhaps simply existing, is already a crime." This was the second time Bull King made the wrong choice, and the price, not only did it doom his mistress, but it cost him the Celestial Court's protection. And worse, it made them want him dead. Let's talk about the layout of Mount Lingshan. Mount Lingshan's countermeasures against the Celestial Court is the perfect example of using minimal effort for maximum impact. Every single step taken on the journey to the west, every Yaogua encountered along the way, none of it was random. It was all part of Bodhisattva Guanyan's grand design. As the spokesperson of Mount Lingshan, Bodhisattva Guanyan personally set up Red Boy and the Flaming Mountains right along the path of a pilgrimage. First, she had son Wukong subdue Red Boy, ensuring the most crucial evidence was in her hands. Then, she made sure that the flames of the Flaming Mountains could only be extinguished by the plantain fan dragon Princess Iron Fan into the mix. Mount Lingshan knew this. The Bull King could deny any bond with a child born from another's womb, but Princess Iron Fan, she could never truly sever her connection with Red Boy, the child she carried and birthed herself. This meant one thing: Wukong had no chance of borrowing the plantain fan from her. His only option, to seek out his old brother, Inams, the Bull King. And just like that, Mount Lingshan pulled a key figure into the game, someone who had nothing to do with the pilgrimage initially. Step by step, link by link, they played their hand, knowing exactly how human hearts worked. This is how Mount Lingshan operates. And now, it was time to close the net. What came next was the most star-studded, high-ranking showdown since Sun Wukong's havoc in the Heavenly Palace. The grandest demon subjugation spectacle yet. The Bull King, pushing himself beyond his limits, fought desperately through over 50 rounds, but he couldn't hold out any longer. Defeated, he fled north only to be blocked by the Dharma, spreading Vajra from the secret magic cliff of Mount Wuti. Bull King, where do you think you're going? We were sent by Buddha Kyamuni himself to make sure you have nowhere to run. Before he could process this, Sun Wukong, Jubagya, and the deities came charging in. Panicking, the Bull King turned south, but his escape was cut off by the Vajra of supreme power and limitless magic from Mount Amei School Cave. I am here by the Buddha's command to capture you. Right here, right now, terror-stricken. The Bull King spun eastward only to run straight into the great Vajra of Vajravaya, from the precipice of Mount Sumeru. Old Bull, where are you off to? Tathgata sent me here in secret, just to take you down. Shaken, the Bull King tried westward insteadly, to be met by the invincible and eternal Vajra from the golden cloud ridge of Mount Kunlun. Where do you think you're running? By the direct orders of the Buddha of the great Thunderclap Monastery in the western heaven. I guard this place. You're not getting past me. The old bull was in absolute despair, regret. It hit him hard, and just as he thought it couldn't get worse, he looked up. The pagoda bearing Heavenly King Li Jing and Prince Neja, leading the Yusha generals and mighty spirit gods, descended from the sky, shouting, hold on, by the decree of the Jade Emperor himself, we are here to erase you from existence. The full force of the Celestial Court and Mount Lingshan was unleashed. The ruler of the Celestial Court and the ruler of Mount Lingshan, both overseeing this operation personally. Their message was clear. Bull King, get on your knees. Still don't see it. Wukong said it before, find a master, cultivate properly, and follow the only path left for us. Can't you see, big brother? And what was the Bull King's answer? Then let's fight. For the third time, he made the wrong choice. After being struck down 14 times, his resistance finally shattered. He lowered his head, he fell to his knees, and with a voice filled with defeat, he cried out, spare my life. I surrender to the Buddha. But did kneeling mean it was over? Neja, without hesitation, pierced his nose with a demon, binding rope, and led him away like cattle to face his wife. Standing before the combined forces of the Celestial Court and Mount Lingshan, what was this? This was humiliation, a deliberate, merciless stomp on his dignity. Even after he had already submitted, that battle broke his back, crushed his knees. From that moment on, the world no longer had the great sage Pingtia, only a bull who had knelt before Mount Lingshan, and so, centuries later, when Mount Lingshan called upon him again, he obeyed. He joined 4 other top-tier Yao Guai to besiege Wukong. This time, he followed orders. The sharp edge in his spirit, gone. Looking at Wukong, he saw himself. He saw what resistance cost, and yet, his eyes were filled with doubt. Had he finally made the right choice, or was he wrong again? Before his death, Wukong left him one final piece of advice. Big brother, take care of your wife and child. Whatever I leave behind, don't you dare touch it. Why couldn't he touch it? Because Wukong knew, even if he died, the Celestial Court and Mount Lingshan would never let him go. We talked about this in a previous video. After Wukong's death, Mount Wago had been carrying out a plan. I call it the Wukong Return Plan. And now, as the story reaches this point, I can finally drop my bombshell. After Wukong's death, the Celestial Court and Mount Lingshan had their own plan. I call it the Destined One Plan. These two plans are, at their core, one and the same. The Wukong Return Plan was about creating a Wukong, one without the golden headband, one free from control. The Destined One Plan, on the other hand, was about creating someone with all of Wukong's power, but who would obey. Had Erlang not turned against them, the Wukong Return Plan would have never stood a chance. The Destined One Plan would have been the one laughing in the end. I'll save the details for the next video, where we'll dive deeper into the Mount Wago storyline. For now, let's get straight to the conclusion. Every Yao Guai who took Wukong's relics was doomed to become nothing more than a whetstone for the Destined One, a mere sacrifice to the plan. Yet the Bull King still took Wukong's relics. That was his fourth mistake. His idea was simple. Take the relics, but don't refine them. Seal them inside his stomach and hand them over when the Destined One came looking. But did he really think he could hide this little trick from Mount Lingshan? Mount Lingshan's response was brutal. Bodhisattva Guanyan simply sent Red Boy back, and in Ping Ping's portrait, it was written, ever since Red Boy returned from Guanyan's temple, he felt different. This tells us something huge. Bodhisattva Guanyan didn't just release him, she told him the truth about his past. Now, imagine this. On one side, the blood feud of his annihilated people, slaughtered by Mount Lingshan. On the other, his so-called father, a lapdog of Mount Lingshan, and in his hands, Wukong's relics, the ultimate treasure of power. If it were you, what would you choose? At first, the Bull King could suppress him through sheer strength, but as time passed, as he kept Wukong's relics sealed away, his own vitality drained, his power faded, One day, inevitably, he would no longer be able to hold Red Boy back. And all of this was precisely what Mount Lingshan had planned. If he refused to be the Destined One's whetstone, then fine, I'll have your son take your place. And through the Destined One, they would eliminate Red Boy, a true threat to their rule. Yet, on the surface, all Bodhisattva Guanyan had done was let his son reunite with his father. Who could possibly object to that? But Princess Ironfan saw through everything, so she set out to break the cycle. But the Destined One plan, it was the will of Mount Lingshan. It was the will of the Celestial Court. Wukong's death, his rise and fall, it was all as if it happened just yesterday. Across the heavens, gods, Buddhas, Yaoguai, who could help her? Who would dare to help her? This was fate. Lao Tzu said, let the storm pass. As long as you and your husband stay uninvolved, you will be spared. But only the two of them. Red Boy's fate, that will depend on Mount Lingshan and on himself. So he went to Mount Lingshan, to the Thunderclap Monastery. He lowered his head before the very place that had wiped out his entire people. And after the Destined One defeated Red Boy, she appeared. She knelt before the Destined One. She gave away her most treasured plantain fan. On this path, she had begged countless people. She had knelt countless times. She was just a mother, desperately trying to save her son. And now, at this moment, if Red Boy was willing to give up revenge, if he was willing to bow his head, just like the Bull King once did, if he was willing to be Mount Lingshan's dog, he could live. But he wouldn't. He couldn't kneel. He said, what they truly want to see is exactly how we kneel before them.